Hey, hello. It's that time again, which is a sort of variable time, isn't it, really? It kind of,
Yes, we get in. We get in now and then. Yeah,
we got to have our supper and do the things that we do, and then get into the zone.
which is after a nice cup of coffee, just to get our stamina going at this time.
Indeed. Now, how's your day been?
Well, we had another walk to the bank this time successfully because it was
second walk to the
open.
bank?
A second walk to the bank, which means we got plenty of exercise now.
Very much so. Yeah. So they're we'll be taking it easy now for the rest of the week. But interestingly, one of the adverts that came up on my social media feed today was about a thing where a guy has invented a gym that you carry around with you,
Oh,
it's a very odd looking thing actually, and
I thought it was
I'm not going to
a drone.
advertise it for him, so I'll cut off the name from the top so that we're not part of this. But
It's at the bottom.
this thing with a handle. Oops! This thing with a handle that this fella's invented looks interesting. Looks like lots of bits of string and handles and pulleys and levers and things, and he's kick-starting it. A very, very good evening to our friends Richard and of course the great, the incomparable Rocker Kev. It's very good to have you with us tonight, sir.
Good evening.
We're back in the zone on a regular daily basis now, and
After a few hectic.
after a kind of a bit of a hectic week, which we
and a
should talk
half.
about sometime. Absolutely. So so I was just looking at a rather unusual thing that was advertised to me today, but it's impossible for me to show it to you again because it had the name of the product on there. It's just a Kickstarter thing, really. And this guy wants
It's like a handheld gym.
it's not a handheld gym. It's like two handles and lots of string and things and a big sort of paper clip or whatever. But anyway, never mind. So we were saying yesterday, and everybody was kind of saying yesterday, weren't they? Oh, the lockdown ends on Monday, but that was kind of wishful thinking. And so nothing like it is going to happen at all because there's still 20,000 people falling ill with this every day because of those COVIDiots who will not stay home. So we have to stay home even longer, which really gets me going. It really does. But anyway, so there's going to be some kind of announcement over the weekend. But in terms of managing expectations, the government has sort of damped it all down again and said, guys, we're not going to the beach over the weekend and all that kind of thing. So don't even go there. And who knows what kind of restrictions will be. Somebody was circulating some list on social media, do you remember the other day?
Oh yeah,
And
that's right.
it was a complete bunch of cobblers.
Oh, really?
Well, it would appear so because the lockdown is going to go on for another 3 weeks now.
Okay.
So and they were saying, well, on day 3 this and that, and then you'll be able to unseal your letterboxes and
Well, but
do
he
this and
also
that.
said that if we didn't improve, it was going to go back to zero. I mean,
We'll be flogged if we don't improve. Well, the schoolmaster will come down and take down our pants and beat us with a leather strap. But enough of my hobbies. Phil, hello. Thank you for joining us this evening. One step forward, 6 steps back. We're kind of, but it means we can keep on doing this for a bit. So sort of back to square one, if you like. But it does make sense that if people are still falling ill with this, we can't relax too much.
no,
I guess.
Yeah, no. But we just wish we go back to a little bit of normality.
Yeah,
Going
but
places.
this is the new normal, isn't it? And
Yeah, I don't have a problem. I mean, I love being at home and I get to be very creative, but you do want to go out without thinking that something out there might be lurking, just ready to get you.
That's true. The
So-
spiky little football that's rather small. Paul, hello, sir, just down the road from us. Actually, it's very nice to have you with us this evening. So, do you want the good news or the bad news?
Let's listen to the good news.
Sarah, thank you for joining us tonight. So, good news or bad news? We're going to start with what the good news.
Yes, the good news.
The good news is that, according to the Bank of England, Britain's GDP will be going up 15%.
Really?
Yep, they've made this little graph. A 15% rise in the GDP of England, roughly speaking, because nobody knows exactly. But yeah, hey. So, you got anything else to ask me?
Well, I thought it was going to go down.
Well, what's the bad news? Yeah, they say what goes up must come down. So the bad news is that this year it's going to fall 14%. So there we are. A short, sharp shock. Down, up. Mr. Diggins, Paul, hello. Thank you for joining us again this evening. I'm sorry we never managed to hit our 7 o'clock target of going on with this, as I always promised you would, because there's always things like supper that intervene, and you know, then the knock on the door from the people singing carols, and you have to point out that it's not December.
Yeah, but it's Thursday, so we have to really.
So if it's not December, but it's Thursday, so it's all right for carolers to come round.
The panelist. We clap, and there was some. No, there were fireworks today on behalf of the NHS just to celebrate that. It's Thursday.
That's nice. But let's see some PPE for the NHS. Another rant because all the stuff from Turkey was crap, and they had to ban it and rescind it. So what on earth is going on there? I just sometimes these things get my goat, and I just have to rant.
Something better than nothing.
Well, you would think. I mean, are the NHS staff going to go back to bin liners because it failed BS or 0.6.8/C? It's nonsense. A huge amount was made of going over all the way to Turkey and getting it, waiting on the tarmac for this thing for 3 days or whatever, and then it's rubbish. Whew. Anyway, I exaggerate perhaps, but you know, it's really serious to protect our frontline staff.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
So Kevin says, and I agree with him actually. Well, what do you think? He says, there's been too much pressure from the media to bring the lockdown to an end. Kevin says, I don't particularly like the situation we're in, but feel the government are doing a good job. We can't end the lockdown too soon. It's true, because if we end it too soon, the numbers go up and it was all for nothing. And we're sitting here going, slowly doolally, for nothing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we need to end it, I guess, when the figures look right.
Some kind of certainty, I suppose, as to, please, hurry up. But we all have to just stay and just protect, basically, the soldiers out there.
Yep.
In the form of the NHS and care workers and key workers.
Cleo, thank you for joining us. It's very good to have your company this evening in our living room, where we welcoming everybody for the whole duration of this thing. And Kevin, Kevin is the man. He goes, and you're not sure what day it is. Well, he goes, tomorrow is Friday, which is actually Bank Holiday Monday.
Huh?
Well, so this is the thing that, you know, our digital diary actually consists of a long scrolling page in the application, in the very sophisticated application Notepad, which I made myself, and it's just got all the days of the week, and it is, you wouldn't believe, a scrolling thing, but then I did have to learn something, so we just kind of scroll up and down this immensely scrolling thing. It's about 5 years long to find out about 3 days later what we should have done today. But anyways, in my homemade diary thing, it said that Monday was a bank holiday, and then Monday came along and it wasn't a bank holiday at all. And then Friday turned out to be VE Day, so somewhere along the line, and I don't know when this happened, they must have moved the bank holiday. Monday happened tomorrow. No. It didn't happen tomorrow. No.
V-Day tomorrow.
Well, I know that, although I didn't know this on Monday. But somewhere along the line, like a year ago or something, somebody in the government, I suppose, must have made the decision to move the May bank holiday from Monday back there to Friday, which is off the side there, because it hasn't happened yet. Are you with me? No, well, moving on swiftly. Our ginormous, hello Richard. Our ginormous celebrations for VE Day. So that's 75 years ago since there was victory in Europe in the Second World War, which would normally be celebrated by the multitudes, and you know, there'd be people lining the Mall, and there'd be things in the Royal Albert Hall and what have you, and we're just going to be sitting in the garden waving a little flag. And has it really come to this? Yeah, I know. Yeah. Not good. My friend Eric in Slovakia, I believe, is going to be celebrating it on his radio station, which will be nice, and I expect it'll be on the telly as well. So. But, you know, not quite the same. It's not quite the same.
It's not the same.
We need to peek out from behind our sort of Netflix and such and you know, get a life. Oh, and there's my friend, my good friend David Hardstaff. We're connected on Facebook, and we're kind of radio chums. Mr. Brian O'Reilly, hello, sir. It's very good to have your company. And you're staying up a bit late because Brian does these breakfast shows on the radio at a very sort of early hour. But anyway, we're just talking about your colleague David Hardstaff, who's on the radio as well. I believe broadcasting from his living room, as I expect you are too. And David posts on Facebook some very interesting stuff. Brian tends to post these kind of daily riddles. Actually, I always get them wrong, so I have to come along next day. But that's the idea, that I have to come along next day to find out what the answer was. And I always give answers that I think are quite funny, but they're not the right ones. But anyway, my good friend David posts on social media a survey from a marketing company called CACI, and they make this. This is kind of, they say in a posh way, but I've been saying for a while, that consumer behaviour has changed, 5 years worth of change, although I would say 20 years worth of change, because we've suddenly come into the 21st century in 2020. But anyway, however many years it is, an oodle of years of change, which has happened in a few weeks, in less than 2 months, because we're in week 7, is it now? What's 7's into 45? 7's are 49, so halfway through week 6. It's a good job that my dad taught me my 7 times table when I was a kid. He used to kind of beat me across the face with his shoe if I got it wrong, and it was a spiky shoe for going in the ice.
Really?
I might be exaggerating slightly, but So anyways, halfway through week 6, we've changed our behaviour, and people like me who used to, I was a bank groupie, and I used to go at least once a week into the bank just to pay, 5p for a carton of milk or something, and I'll just be queuing through the bank and everything, not socially distancing at all, and loving my time with the old cashiers and the sort of weekly banter. Hey, hello, how are you today? Well, much the same as yesterday, and so forth, and we'll hang on, hold that thought there for a minute, which is actually not a thought, it's a little phony thing, and I'll just get through this quickly, which is not the sort of, no, I want it, I'm not saying not have it, this is kind of some groundbreaking stuff that you would never have realised, and there's maybe a hint of sarcasm there, about how our lives have changed radically in a short space of time, and like, our lives were changed because we've been talking for years, like since before we met, about how we really ought to do some regular, well, we weren't going to do them as live, but some regular little snippets for social media, and here we are live most days. But this survey tells us things that are expected to change in the big wide world due to all that virus stuff that's going on. So number one, 35% of workers are expected to be furloughed for the rest of their lives. No, it doesn't say that.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't say that, but what it does say, I know, what it does say is that they're expecting to, well, it'd be nice to sit at home watching the telly, wouldn't it, and Netflix and getting paid for it. No, but anyway, no, what they're really expecting is to increase the amount of time that they work from home, especially the older, more affluent workers. This will impact negatively and positively, respectfully. So negatively on city centres, because all the offices will be empty, so that newsagent there will have a hard time because his custom will sort of tail off. But positively on the suburban commercial centres, because everybody will be at home and they'll be popping out for a pizza at lunchtime. Mm-hmm. So there's a change.
I think we're going to become more localized in terms of our expenditure and our consumerism, and we're going to be more focused on helping the local. That's what I would do anyway. I mean, to start from more or less zero, trying to help each other in a kind of community sense.
Well, if Farmer Jack is growing Cox's apples down the road, Cox's orange pippins, or whatever, which are my favourites, why the heck are we eating apples that have been flown over from Peru? It's never really made a lot of sense. But then when they don't arrive, then it really doesn't make a lot of sense. And we can cut costs and support the local economy.
Well, yeah. Now, we might end up with having loads of empty buildings, huge buildings, or even industrial estates that are unused because obviously the manufacturing is not as it was, but it can restart again if we were to start. And in terms of agricultural stuff and produce and everything else, we have the hydroponics now. We can grow anything, so it's big enough to grow apples, etc., or anything that we need to grow indoors to have them, instead of flying them in, just grow them ourselves.
It does make sense. And it's something that I noticed in all that sort of Brexit pandemonium, although we've Brexited, but we're still in the transition period, so all the old rules still apply. But basically, I noticed that, blueberries, which used to come from Poland and now coming from South Africa or South America or somewhere, well, we're still under the old rules at the moment, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there.
Yeah.
But I did notice a change in the countries from which my stuff had been flown in from, so it was coming even further. But hopefully now it'll come from Farmer Giles, because I forgot what his name was 2 minutes ago. But,
yeah.
I don't know.
But I think it could help the economy if we start to become self-sufficient in terms of produce and everything else. Oh.
So Paul says many calendars were printed before the announcement of the change of bank holiday, mine included. So
Yes, I know.
yeah. But Kevin says that the VE 75 celebrations, because it is a really big deal, because by the time it comes to VE 100, there won't be any of the veterans around anymore to remember it. Now there are a few, and they're quite elderly. So this is the big one, really. It will be led by an address to the nation from Her Majesty the Queen, with her pre-recorded televised address broadcast on the BBC at 9 p.m, which was the exact moment that her dad, King George VI, gave a radio address on May the 8th, 1945. That is an amazing thing, really. So after the broadcast, the public will be invited to join a moment of celebration and thanksgiving by taking part in a rendition of Dame Vera Lynn's wartime anthem, We'll Meet Again, Don't Know Where, Don't Know When, during a BBC One programme of music and memories from that era. Prince Charles will read the diary entry for the 8th of May 1945 from the wartime journal of his grandfather, which describes VE Day, including the royal family's memorable Buckingham Palace balcony appearances. The celebrations will also feature World War II veterans and those who served on the home front, taking part in a series of video calls with the likes of the royal family and Boris Johnson. Good evening, David. Thank you for joining us this evening. And Paul asks Brian if he remembers that bloke David that we were talking about earlier. Paul also says, don't waste apples, they don't grow on trees. Absolutely right. I saw a cauliflower tree the other day, in fact today when we were walking back from the bank, do you remember?
Cauliflower tree?
Did you not know that cauliflowers grow on trees? There was this tree that we passed.
They don't grow on trees, no.
Well, it had these white things on it, which without my glasses...
Flowers.
Looked exactly like... What, flower, cauliflower. Good evening, Dorota. It's delightful to have your company with us today, all the way from Kielce. Hope all's good with you. We're just larking about, as we do every day on our little one-to-one here on Facebook that we do from our living room. And so similarly, so we talked about this the survey. Was there any? Oh, there were a few other things on this survey that my good friend David told us about how life's going to change when we come out of lockdown. There will be retail. I mean, these are not sort of huge revelations. They're sort of written on the back of an envelope kind of things, really. So retail, more self-service, more click and collect, and larger showroom style outlets. We can probably say that that sounds reasonable, doesn't it?
We're Selfridges.
Indeed, we can't click and collect too quickly, I tell you. Family and community, greater engagement with what is going on in your immediate vicinity. I would think so. Yes. I mean, we've sort of we got these bits of paper through our letterbox at the start of lockdown saying we need any help, but we haven't engaged much with the community via WhatsApp or whatever. Has the community engaged much with us?
Yes. I mean, they're still helping, but I think we live in very nice area in terms that shops is just a walking distance. Everything is just very close. We don't...
I can look out the window actually, and I can see Sainsbury's. I'm not going to do it right now because then you'll see my belly button. But in theory, it can be done. So what else? The final point from this report that came out today, and it is all good stuff. It's just not terribly revealing because some of it's obvious. Value and sustainability. It says basically, people will be skint. I think that's David's words rather than the words of the report. So there will be an upsurge in interest in this area. So we'll all be off to Lidl and Aldi and Asda again.
Well, I think it's okay if we start to It's a culture that we need to change in terms of consumerism, just buying stuff because of the sake of buying it. And sometimes we buy clothes or things like that we don't use it, and it stays there forever, and then with the labels and everything else. So really now it's a different different perspective. You got very many of the same. So it's a different perspective in terms of what we really need to consume, and even with food, there's less waste because before, I mean, you would cook loads of stuff and then just eat a little, and the rest would just go to waste. So now you just kind of, we are very measured. Yeah. Sometimes we cook for 2-3 days and then we just keep it going.
So, hello, Michael. Thank you for the company this evening. Now, you had something on your phone to read.
Yes,
now it's gone to sleep, hasn't it? Wake it up. Just give it a bit of a shake.
Oh, yeah. Well, for number 10, it says from Hofbust.
Number 10 Downing Street or number 10 in our street? Well, that old lady at number 10, she's at it again. What did she say?
Okay. Oh, my God. I need a facelift very soon if I carry on laughing like this. Okay, don't go sunbathing this weekend. Number 10 there warns as PM prepares lockdown exit. So basically that's what it says. And Nicola Sturgeon has also said an early easing will be a catastrophic mistake. So yes.
So naturally, which newspaper is this? It doesn't say.
The HuffPost.
The Huffington Post. Yeah, and that woman in the Huffington Post, she studied at Cambridge here, and she was in the Cambridge Union Society as the president of it when I was a humble little student in short trousers. But of course, the HuffPost is what I'm saying, has a picture of some scantily clad ladies sunning themselves to illustrate the fact that we shouldn't do. It's not clickbait. It's just to illustrate the fact that we should abide with what Boris. Well, let's have a picture of Boris Johnson. Come on.
So yeah, we mustn't go sunbathing. As people should stick to the guidelines. Well, we still have to be indoors. Nearly 7 weeks after the lockdown was imposed, government's insiders have suggested that picnic, sunbathing, unlimited exercise and visits to outdoor cafes could all be included in the Prime Minister's addresses to the nation at 7 p.m. on Sunday night. I'm looking forward to that. I'll be gloating.
Good evening, Tony. Thank you for your company this evening. Now, Kevin suggests, because we were talking about thrift, what did he say?
I just wash your clothes and wear them more than once.
Now, Kevin is also very good at picking out when I wear my clothes more than once, and you know, this is a thing, and so I have to do an audit now to make sure that it's not the one I had yesterday.
Kevin, honestly, he has got many of the same kind of t-shirts and things like that, and it's all like everything the same, so he knows he doesn't get it wrong. Instead, he doesn't waste time in, okay, this one goes with that, this one goes with that, and it just fix it, and it's exactly the same. It's got like, full wardrobe with the same thing.
I'm sitting there in my dressing gown. You know,
I promise we wash our clothes.
30 seconds before we go, I'm sitting there in my dressing gown, and I think, oh my God, we're going to turn on the camera. What should I wear? And I sort of grab something from the wardrobe, whack it over my head, and then I've messed up my beautiful hair, and it's all spiky, like Mohican and everything, which I did tonight, just before I come on. I go to Irma, shall I do something with the old hair then? And she goes, yeah, I think you probably should.
I'm gonna have a go at tomorrow. I'm gonna cut your hair.
Oh, how very kind! How very kind. Here we go. Quite a few things today actually on the world after COVID. So it is, isn't it? It's the press creating a story where perhaps there wasn't one about, you know, the end of the lockdown which hadn't been announced, and forcing the government's hand. We were playing some Stranglers this week on the Rock Show, and Kevin says, walking on the beaches, looking at the beaches. Don't do it. Stay home. Totally correct.
I just realised what.
Yeah, okay. Oh, now you know what it means. So I told you that all their lyrics were racist and misogynist and all this kind of thing, the Stranglers, and the penny's finally dropped here.
I'm very gullible.
Well, you know, Gullible's Travels. Wasn't that a book? I think.
Don't know.
Sort of. Well, or Gulliver, was it? I don't know. But anyways, so this is some website which is talking about the narrative of the lockdown and the world we're going to emerge in, and that's a sort of theme that seems to have found its way onto this little talk about us today, because we don't, you know, I know you think that we spend 4 hours kind of making bullet points and sticking together on this thing, but what happens is while Irma's in the bathroom, I just whack up a few websites and then we just prattle on.
No, yes, it's very much an impromptu kind of guy, and I like to prepare a little bit more and just. But then it becomes boring, so it's very just to follow the impromptu guy and.
You're very kind.
Making me
You're very
laugh.
kind. We sort of go with the flow, don't we? But you know, so this is a website called OpenDemocracy.net. And it says there's a prevailing journalistic narrative that the COVID-19 emergency will prove to be the portal to a brave new world of increasingly powerless citizens and increasingly powerful governments. But maybe, I mean, certainly governments are having a bit of a field day at the moment, which is true. Being able to tell us, you know, when to stand up, when to sit down, when to sunbathe, when not to, and but you know, it's I don't think I personally, you know, what about you guys? I personally don't think that when this thing lifts, that we will go back to how it was. I think it'll be a long time before I go back into a Cafe Nero or whatever it is. It'll be a long time.
Yeah.
And I'll, or indeed to the restaurant down at the end of the road that gave Emma food poisoning just before lockdown. I mean, I'm not holding any grudges about this, but you know, just before lockdown, you know, that was awful. She was white as a sheet and and I thought, yay, let's go back there. So.
Yes, but yeah, okay. Yes, I did get a bit ill.
So
Yeah.
so you know, but having said that, I got ill the previous day, didn't I, from some other restaurant, a different restaurant, and I went bright green. So you know, I'm not sure that you know, I'm not sure I miss those experiences. And
Well,
home
I
cooking
do.
is a sort of bonding activity, anyway.
Yes, that has become now for us cooking.
It has.
Because his cookery skills were absolutely non-existent.
And now,
non-existent.
You
Well,
know, I can make an omelette with the best of them.
He would boil his eggs on the kettle, in the kettle.
Still do.
Yes.
We had a supper the other day with boiled eggs. Where do you think they came from? In fact, there might be some boiled eggs still in the kettle. I'm not sure.
But just imagine that day in which I went to scale, let's have a cup of tea, and then something just rattled inside, and it was the egg inside the kettle. So that's not.
But you know,
So
fellas,
now
it makes sense. There's no washing up to do. There's no finding a saucepan and hello, Joseph. Good to have you with us. And Kevin has given me some local news, which is from our neck of the woods. And I never. The only local news I've seen since the lockdown, I've been looking for when the local recycling facility opens, so I can get a new wig then and get rid of this one. Look, see, you don't think it's a wig, but look, it doesn't fit very well.
Well, we have something from Kate Middleton, the Duchess of Cambridge. So she's launched a landmark photography project to capture the spirit of the nation as it tackles coronavirus. So I think that's quite a good idea from Kate Middleton.
Yeah, absolutely. Her Kateness.
Her Kateness.
Oh my goodness! The breaking news. See, this is what it's like to live in the sticks, okay? And you can't make this up. So, headline news in the county of Cambridgeshire, right across the county. This is the sort of biggest news of the day. And thank you so much, Kevin, for drawing this to our attention, because you know, we might have missed this, but it's police called to St Ives to help track down wallaby roaming the streets.
What?
Well, let me sort of clarify this with a picture for everybody of a wallaby. So not to be confused with a wannabe, but a wallaby. Here we go. We're having a race now to see who can. So
a wallaby. We're here in the UK, in Cambridge.
So it's like I suppose what you'd say is a short, fat kangaroo kind of thing. Definitely a kangaroo that's had too much pizza. I think that would be the thing, really, wouldn't it? So let me see if I can find a good photo of a wallaby. I had a super one, but it's just gone away now. So I'm going to dig it up again. I always do that when she's having a cup of tea. Quite a lad, aren't I? But anyway, so here we have the definitive best picture of a wallaby. What a fine, handsome fella or lady is this? I think. See, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, and I don't know. Police found the animal in a garden, and there's no indication in this story, I don't think, as to where the wallaby came from. He escaped, obviously, from the wallaby sanctuary somewhere or other, but I can't see too much. Yeah, we're not quite sure where he came from. So the animal was cornered in a garden and returned to his home. So, but there's no indication on here of
He was probably a pet or something.
where the. Yeah, I mean, why not? Why not? So anyway, look. In case you're wondering, this is what a wallaby looks like. So it is, isn't it? A kangaroo that's had a bit too much of the old pizza over the years, I think. And it's actually me in about 2016, because I was a lot heavier then than I am now. And I don't mean in my taste of music. I was 92 kilos. And now the weight, I'm not working out in the gym, am I? Or anything like that. But the weight is now down to 69.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, how about that? That's pretty
very
good.
good,
That's a lot of kilos that are not being carried around by me
Yeah,
anymore.
when we first met, you were a bit on the heavy side, I remember.
I
But
was.
not that heavy like you say you were. But I believe it because I've seen the photos and I've seen the clothes and they're huge.
Yeah, I've got clothes where, like, now that the whole of me could fit down one leg of my old trousers.
Mm-hmm.
So, they'll be going to charity, I think, quite soon. And when the charity shops reopen, So, but yeah, wallaby alert. What an extraordinary thing, isn't it, really?
I'm just reading about hairdressers here. I mean, apparently they're going to be one of the first ones to be allowed to work once all these breaks, which I need it. I need a haircut. You need a haircut too. But I want to have a go at yours tomorrow.
We do, absolutely. We'll have. Shall I look? Here's the question. Shall I shave all my hair off tomorrow morning?
No.
Or shall I make a sort of thing down the middle? I just
No.
shave off a bar down the middle.
No.
Just up at the sides like that. See, because do you remember that film Castaway with Tom Hanks? Where he's on a, oh, you don't remember oh my goodness me, this is more more of a defining moment than Wallabies, really. So let's see if we can find him where he's on a desert island getting a bit hairier than normal.
Oh yeah.
And,
when he plays with that football.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one. And so I am wondering really how long it's going to take. Let me see if I can find Tom Hanks at his finest.
That's the one.
I think that is the one, but that's a YouTube video, so that probably won't display properly. But
No, it won't. No.
This one will, or indeed this one will. Let's have a look at that one. That's a nice one. So I'm thinking here, open image in new tab. Here it comes. I'm wondering, and I'll be looking for opinions on here. How long is it going to take before, during lockdown, I look like a box office, high-grossing Hollywood actor? And I'm working on this. I'm working on this. So this is Tom Hanks.
That's how I met you, actually.
Star of stage and screen. How long under lockdown before I look like that?
That was
What
our
do you
first
reckon?
date.
What do you reckon?
You look like that on our first date, I remember.
I probably did, and you thought that's the boy for me. Good evening, David. Thank you for joining us. So we're just describing the sort of somewhat slight eccentricities of lockdown, some of the idiosyncrasies, shall we say, of our present predicament, So kind of
This is an interesting story.
yes.
Coronavirus drug dealers dress as joggers and use fake NHS ID badges in lockdown.
That's cool.
Gosh.
So they're doing that then, the drug dealers, so that they can get free coffees at some cafe from the NHS badges. Yeah, they go, can I have my free coffee?
I don't know.
I would imagine.
Very weird. Very weird.
How extraordinarily naughty.
Yeah.
So while India is on lockdown, apparently, hundreds of thousands of undisturbed sea turtles came ashore for the first time in years to lay 60 million eggs. See, we Homo sapiens, we don't have to cause a lot of mischief and make a lot of noise and stuff, don't we?
Yeah.
And you see, once it's all over and done with, now the Chinese city of Shenzhen, and we're very this is very welcome news, and other Chinese cities should follow suit. Listen up. It's become the first Chinese city to ban the sale and consumption of dogs and cats.
Mm-hmm.
And about time too, if I may respectfully say so.
Mm-hmm.
So the BBC has got this frontline diary from a doctor, not Dr. Mike, but another doctor. This is Dr. This is Professor John. So not Dr. Mike. Professor John is talking about stuff that he's seen on the front line in Doctorville. and he notices that, what do you reckon has declined sharply? You won't get this because I wouldn't have got this either. But what do you reckon has declined sharply during this coronavirus period in terms of people turning up at the hospital? Okay, so they have seen a huge slowdown in patients coming to hospital with acute heart attacks or strokes.
Oh.
And thing is, these are probably not the kind of cases where you'd say, oh, well, I'll just stay home.
No, you
You'd think that if you got one of those, if the old ticker's playing up and stuff, you're going to go in there. So it may well be that there is a slowdown. So why would that be? Is it because we're not running around as we normally do, as if we've got ferrets pecking at our bottoms, and that we're sort of having a slightly slower pace, so we're having slightly less stress, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it could be, because if for example, you used to travel quite a lot, or long distances, to bigger places or other places, the traffic is just horrendous. M1 coming into Cambridge is just horrendous as well sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of stresses you out, and pressures at work. Yeah.
Yeah. And all that sort of fight or flight stuff from when we were in the caves, I remember it well. And you're sitting in the car on the motorway or something, and it's stationary. You think, my goodness, get a move on. So all that adrenaline is pumping out. It's got to go somewhere. So it goes, comes out in that way. So it's probably a good thing. That's probably a good thing. I think living slower is possibly something we can look at. I found out from my friend today what. In fact, I'm finding out now what Fitbit is. It's a health and fitness tracker, which a friend of mine just got one of today, and it can tell you things, how many steps you've walked and all this kind of thing, how many minutes you're active, and that sort of stuff. So we're not sitting. This is another thing. We're not sitting at our desks for 8 hours a day anymore, and that's got to be a good thing, because that's not healthy, man.
I did last week. Last week was.
Whoa! Well, last week was something a bit extraordinary for us. So which we'll talk about another day when it's all done and dusted. The little things that we set in motion this week.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So changes. What have you got for us? That looks like a picture of a coronavirus.
No, that's a rosary.
Oh, it's a rosary. I do apologise. I
No,
couldn't see that because it was in Spanish.
No, I was just reading this one for Bertrand Russell. It says, the good life, as I conceive it, is a happy life. I do not mean that if you are good, you will be happy. I mean that if you are happy, you will be good. So probably that kind of answers your question about the decline in heart attacks and things like that. So probably because we are happy being at home. Yes, a lot of stress and everything else, but we don't have those kind of stress that we can't control, which I think is more to do with frustration, isn't it?
It probably is.
Stuck in a traffic jam, dealing with a bad boss.
Yeah. There's a lot of bad stuff in our lives, and maybe with our sort of 2020 change of direction, maybe we can keep the bad stuff at bay.
Yeah. Well, I keep doing my meditation every morning, so that keeps me happy.
Yeah.
That keeps me happy, and really sets me for the day, and it really makes a huge difference, because sometimes I used to get up and why do we need to do this, that, and the other, and I was a very early riser at 5:30 in the morning. Now I get up at 6, straight into meditation, half an hour, a bit more than that perhaps, and and now I'm reading this one from Sidney Smith. It says, try to make at least one person happy every day, and then in 10 years you may have made 3,650 persons happy. Or brightened a small town by your contributions to the fund of general enjoyment. That's a long one.
Wouldn't it be 3,660 because of leap years, or 3,654 or something?
You are the mathematician.
I'm just saying, because that for 10 years, there's not 10 years of 365 days, so it'd be a couple more days than that. Trust me to be a smart ass. But anyway, BBC website again, because I used to work for them, not the website but the BBC, and they've got this picture of some people sitting at the window, and they've got a video which I haven't actually seen, saying coronavirus lockdown lives behind every door, because everybody's life in lockdown is different. We've invited you into our home for hours in the hope that there's some light, it lightens it up for us a bit as well, because we've got something to our routine now. Hello, Corinna. I hope everything's good with you this evening. Welcome to our living room for our little nightly tete-a-tete. And so so back onto the subject of VD Day. It wasn't half celebrated quite victoriously back in 1945. So is that is 75 years? Good Lord! And there were all kinds of things, including there was this soldier who kissed a girl who was a complete stranger and everything, and the story of that went rumbling around for years, with people claiming to be the soldier and claiming to be the girl, and people saying, was it sexist or whatever it was, and it caused a huge amount of controversy over the years, but it was widely published at the time. But here's a nice picture from that would be from Friday in 1945, which would be if I'm trying to find what date Friday is. I should know this, shouldn't I? So that would be the 8th of May, the 8th of May. 1945. This is a book. This is something I should have learned about in history, except that when I went to school, the Second World War was just over, so it hadn't entered the history books yet. And times were very different indeed. And they didn't teach German in my school as a language. You couldn't learn it.
Oh, really?
Only French and Spanish and all. Yeah, they didn't, because it was too soon after the end of World War II. Socially distanced wreath laying is something we can expect tomorrow. A 2-minute silence, a rebroadcast of Winston Churchill's speech from VE Day, and the address from the Queen that Kevin mentioned earlier. So these are some of the things that are sort of going on. It was at 3 o'clock in the afternoon that the Prime Minister, who was Winston Churchill, not Boris Johnson, announced a very big difference there, just in case we were in any doubt. Winston Churchill announced on the radio that the war in Europe had come to an end following Germany's surrender the day before, and everybody was prancing around. And let me see if I can find that picture of the of the girl and the sailor from World War II. It's such a famous one. Let's have a look. And yeah, this is the picture, I think, that for me sums up. This was actually not VE Day. This one just before somebody corrects me to tell me. So this was actually VJ Day, which was a bit longer, marking the surrender of Japan at the end of the Second World War.
Oh God!
And these two were actually strangers, and this boy. Sailor had taken a different girl out on a date, and I think there have been interviews with her as well. And so but on VJ Day, he just spontaneously decided to force himself on somebody else. And the girl in the picture, to be frank, doesn't look as if she's enjoying herself at all. So
like it's just going to fade.
She really doesn't look happy about that. And so there you are. And the royals on the balcony. King George and a very young Princess Elizabeth, who had some years to wait before taking on her royal duties. Didn't she do a good job though? She's been an absolute bedrock to our nation over the years. And is Queen Elizabeth the longest serving monarch? Because I know she outdid Queen Victoria's record a few years back. My guess is probably that she is our longest serving head of state, and having seen some extraordinary changes over the years. Now, I like butter. I like butter a lot. I eat far too much.
Yes.
Everybody tells me that, and yet I'm still healthy. My cholesterol levels and everything are kind of quite normal. So I don't know how we explain that. How do we explain that?
I think you've made your body a burning machine.
I do.
Fat burning machine.
I do. I am very active, yeah, that's true. But and I don't eat margarine. It's shite, just for the avoidance of doubt. It's chemical goo. Mushed up in a factory in a stainless steel thing, if you're lucky, with probably bits of rust falling in it, and it tastes nothing like butter, and it's never been near a cow, and only if a cow was to sit on some, on a tub of it, that would be only. So, in terms of what's going on during lockdown. Apparently, we are told by the Daily Telegraph that we're eating a lot more butter.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a fellow called there's a business called Graham's Family Dairy in Scotland. I nearly read diary. Graham's Family Dairy has upped its production to 7 days a week from its usual 4, and demand has doubled, as we are sort of going way and really kind of letting rip by having more butter than usual. And I'm not eating more butter than usual because I eat more than the maximum anyway.
Yeah.
Far more.
Yeah. I was just reading about this Elon Musk. The satellites he launched, I think 2 weeks ago or something.
Yeah, I didn't see them, but all the lights in the sky. Yeah.
Yeah, apparently it's gonna make them invisible because there's been some light pollution complaints from astronomers.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so it's planning to make these satellites generally invisible to a naked eye within a week of launch.
Wow. And he's going to upgrade. So, in case you're wondering, they've got lights on them like Christmas trees. But he's going to turn them so that there's less reflection from the sun, which is why we could see them. Because it's annoying all the astronomers, like my friend, Dr. Mike, who prefers to
so
look at the sky.
They have expressed concern about the project, despite Mr. Musk's claim that reflections would not interfere with their work.
Now, we put this thing together spontaneously, don't we? We don't sort of like rehearse it.
No.
We couldn't. Nothing this chaotic could be rehearsed. So how come you're just talking about Elon Musk and his SpaceX? And we'll come on to what Kevin just talking about very quickly after I come on to staying in space, the thing that we've just found the nearest black hole to Earth, which is you could practically reach out and touch it. This was discovered a couple of days ago, actually, and there it is. They saw these two stars spinning around, and realised from studying them, and look, you couldn't make this up, but the constellation, and I thought it was April the 1st, because the constellation where they found this black hole is called Telescopium. Come on, guys, come on. But it's true, somewhere if I scroll down this article, I'll find the number of it. But I can't find the number of it because BBC, why are you not giving me the number? Oh yeah, here we are. HR, which is not human resources. HR 6819, and that is so close. Not so close, because in astronomical terms, it would still take 1,000 years for light travelling at the speed of light from there. Which obviously it wouldn't travel out of a black hole, would it? But light from something next to the black hole, far enough away from the black hole, would take 1,000 years to reach us. But the previous one was 3,500 light years away, the previous black hole. So now they think and I'm glad the black hole isn't any nearer, because it would suck us all in.
Nope.
That would be a very uncomfortable way to demise. We don't know that. But anyway, it's a lot nearer than any that they found hitherto. And obviously, it's not a photograph of a black hole, because a black hole is by definition invisible. So, and that's just a kind of an artist's representation on the BBC website of these orbiting stars, with perhaps a black hole somewhere in the middle that obviously they couldn't illustrate because they didn't have the right shade of black to illustrate it with. Mm-hmm. But it's a big deal, and the first thing I did was send it by PM send it by private message to my friend Dr. Mike, who does astronomy in his spare time. Now, Kevin addresses, I'm sorry we didn't get around to ever talking about any of the earlier ones, basically because we went on, but I did ask him to keep a note of this, and he has today's questions from the public to the government's daily briefing in London. So, the idea, I think, is not that we listen to the twaddle coming from the podium, but very good evening to Kevin in the Ipswich area. I hope things are good for you. So that is to say, a second Kevin watching tonight. We've got two Kevins watching tonight. Thomas from London says, how safe is it to lift any lockdown measures, considering that our track and trace system is not operational and is a bit crap as well, because it's not the same as anywhere else in the world? So what do you reckon? I mean, in some other countries, right, the way that they have dealt with the pandemic is that they've allowed people to venture out, but people have got this thing on their phones so they can see if they've been close to somebody with the lurgy and then get sorted and either confine themselves at home or look out for a cough or wear a mask or something like this. Good.
Yeah.
Ours is still in sort of beta test in the Isle of Wight. Why on earth we weren't on our own with a different system to the rest of the world? I don't know, because it means Britons won't be able to fly and they won't be able to do this and yeah. Then they'll be able to swim halfway across La Manche, or should I say the English Channel. There's a bit of controversy there.
But it has happened. I mean, yes, this was launched in Australia, and I think there are places in which they're not allowed to have their phones with them. So, and the phones are asked to be switched off. So, how on earth the app's going to pick up on whoever was there?
When you switch your phone off, don't you just switch off the ringing so it doesn't interrupt the padre during the Sunday morning?
No. Nope. It gets completely fully switched off. So I suppose that's just so how they're going to check. So and anyway, British Airways says meaningful returns of flights from July. So
well, that's the last of the optimists. I mean, like, who is going to sit next to somebody sniffing and coughing so as to enjoy that week in Ibiza? Not me.
No, but for example, if you
forget it, I'll be swimming out there.
No, no way.
Back in black, says Kevin, and he's absolutely right in terms of your black hole. Is
that kind of common language between the two of you? I don't understand it.
The most famous rock song ever from AC/DC, Back in Black. Rock on. That was the Stranglers. And Peaches again. My goodness me, I've got that stuck in your head, haven't I, all week? Right, okay, moving on, as you do. There's a fat wallaby. But, yes, well, it lightens the mood a little, doesn't it, really? I think let's move to the sort of mindset stuff, shall we, at this point in the proceedings? I think
the mindset, no, I just like that everyday happiness. No, I was reading here, and it's Harvard's Business Review.
Harvard's Business Review?
Harvard. Business Review. How on earth am I going to do mindset? No. What it is that I was reading about the GROW model, which is very good, which is GROW for goal, reality, options, and will. And GROW is just when you begin discussing something that you want to achieve from whoever you ask to coach you, or even yourself. It says, what do you want when you walk out of the door that you don't have now? So basically, you have to make yourself your own questions as to what is that you want, and just be specific. But this is like coaching yourself. Yeah. What you want to achieve.
What does R stand for then?
R's for reality. It says, with your goal and your conversation established, ask questions: what, when, where, who. What are the key things we need to know, basically, and options. That's O. So if anybody asks you, says, I'm torn between A and B, so you have to be specific with your options. What are your options? And will, what will you do? And a scale on 1 to 2, what is the thing that is more likely for you to do? So that's basically the GROW model for approach to self-coaching.
It makes a lot of sense, and I like when these acronyms actually, the abbreviations actually sort of make a word that kind of describes what it's about, because GROW does mean, here I am and here's where I want to be. And then it describes, it's quite clever actually, and then it describes the 4 steps of how to get there.
Well, that got me thinking in the fact that I get a lot of spam stuff on my Facebook sometimes, or about coaches, this, that, and the other. And yes, you find the very good ones, but at the end of the day, you need to know first what would you like to achieve. So you cannot just go firing everywhere and asking everyone, or just going for the shiny penny. Just you have to really know within yourself what is it you want based on this GROW, this kind of acronym, and then just if you need, just go and find yourself a coach and go coach yourself.
Yeah, it makes good sense. It makes good sense because now is the time for a bit of self-development, isn't it? Now is the time to improve ourselves.
Well, yes, we've been indoors for a long time, so we've had plenty of time to reflect as to what we need to grow, what we need to really use our time wisely, what is important, what really matters for us, and I'm still looking forward to become. I don't know. I'm happy here where I am, but I would like just to go out there and. It's a different matter. I went all over the place, but anyway.
Talking about VE Day, actually, which we kind of were, there was a film that used to be on television every Christmas Day, actually, before it became politically incorrect to do so. And it was called The Great Escape. And man, did it have an extraordinary cast of actors. And I've got to prick the old TV, the old computer thing up again. That's the Wallaby again. Just get out of my sight, man. This had the most extraordinary. It was a war film, which had the most extraordinary cast of any war film ever, and some absolutely extraordinary lineup of people who were very famous actors back in the day starred in this movie. Oh yeah, I didn't really scuba diving. I didn't know that.
Oh wow!
Self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. I honestly didn't know that. Thank you, Kevin.
I would know that. Yeah.
That is a brilliant
Oh, that's what your acronym.
Acronym. That's the one.
That's very
brilliant.
Then, wow.
Okay, then
that's
I'm going to put Ian on the spot now because I told you I was going to do this 2 days ago. What does TARDIS stand for? I told you. I told her the answer, and I said I'm going to ask you on the live.
I can't remember.
Oh my goodness! I'm horrified. I've been keeping this next to the camera to pull it out. So I'm sure Kevin knows. But you know.
Anybody knows what TARDIS stands for?
Without googling it.
Transport Tower. It's going to be transport.
Transport all around Daleks in Cybermen? No. It doesn't
Transport.
Mean that. No.
Telepathic.
No.
Transportation.
No.
Trading.
No.
Oh, for God's sake, you tell me. TARDIS.
The way you do that Doctor Who theme is truly memorable.
Truly ready.
So, here we go. Time and relative dimension in space. Doesn't get any geekier than that. But Dalek doesn't stand for anything. In fact, the Daleks got their name when there was this guy who invented them. Was a fellow called. It's a money box. It's empty because I'm skint permanently. But theoretically, I wonder if its bottom does come out. I don't know.
Yes, it does come out.
Sort of, but not.
It does.
Let's not waste any time on this. So yeah, the creator of the Daleks at the BBC, a fellow called Terry Nation, he'd created these monsters which were basically modelled on a pepper pot. They really were. Oh yay! Kevin is the man. Time and relative dimension in space, and he did know it, which is fabulous. That's two of us. So Terry Nation, creator of the legendary Daleks, which had me hiding behind the sofa. They really did. The sofa's over there. It was modelled on a pepper pot because he went in to see this head of designing monsters at the BBC. He was having his lunch on his desk then, and the guy had a pepper pot. And he said, "This do," and the guy goes, "Yeah, perfect." But anyway, then he had to go home and name this pepper pot, and he was looking at his encyclopedias. I've got some up there. And volume 7 or whatever was because in the encyclopedia it would say AAZ to CMR or something, to going through the alphabet, and volume 3 of the of this encyclopedia had DAL, everything from DAL to LEK. So it was a big chunk of the alphabet. So the first Dalai Lama to Lector or something, and probably not those, but then he married that together, and that became the name of his monster. I'm telling you, it's true. So you couldn't make it up. But anyway, coming back in the sort of Shaggy Dog story nature of things, because that's kind of what it is. Oh, and now here's a thing, and this is terrific. I don't know where Kevin finds these things, but Andy Serkis is going to give a continuous live reading of The Hobbit online to raise money for charity. That's going to take a while, isn't it? So the Gollum actor is going to read J.R.R. Tolkien's 1937 novel from start to finish, breaking only for those essential things where you have to turn the camera off, unlike that woman on the Zoom call when Zoom started being popular in the first week of lockdown, who actually went to the loo with Zoom on. But this guy's going to preserve his modesty. And the money raised from his 12-hour performance is going to be split between NHS charities together and Best Beginnings. Of course, he played the corrupted character originally known as Smeagol in the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit films. His reading will take place from 10 o'clock BST, British Standard Time, on British Summertime.
Yeah. I thought, okay.
British Summertime on Bank Holiday Friday. So we won't be able to see it all the way through, otherwise we'll miss Her Majesty, but we'll see most of it.
Mm-hmm.
Pausing only at 3 p.m. to commemorate Winston Churchill's address to the nation.
Mm-hmm.
The Great Escape. Okay, so it was Stalag Luft something or other, and it was a fictional account of British prisoners of war in German prisoner of war camps, where the officers had quite a nice time of it, really, sitting there playing chess and doing all that sort of stuff, and sipping sherry, whatever. But these guys decide that they're going to escape from this seemingly impossible prison where they're being held prisoners of war, because they're all the guys who'd escaped before and caused a lot of trouble. So the Germans thought they'd put them all into this one place. So it's based on a kind of true story, which was Colditz Castle, where these super escapers they thought, well, if we put them all together, it'll be easier. But if you put all the escapers together, they're obviously going to combine their escaping talents and escape, which is exactly what they did. But the reason that I was mentioning that film earlier is because being stuck here during lockdown in our living room, I'm reminded of Steve McQueen in that film, who plays the American who's a POW, and he keeps getting captured and he keeps getting put back into solitary to punish him for being a bit cheeky and for escaping and all that kind of thing. But they allow him to have his baseball in there, and so he's just at numerous times in this film he's just throwing the baseball across the wall, ka-ching, ka-chong, ka-ching, ka-chong, ka-ching, ka-chong. So this is a sort of recurring image in that movie. But I'm going to read you I mean, yeah, well,
has anybody heard ka-ching, ka-chong for a while? It's ping pong or
whatever. I don't know. So Kevin didn't know about the origin of DAL to LEK. Yay! As a Whovian, I can tell you. Where's my sonic screwdriver? Anyway, I met Tom Baker twice actually. Once as a very young teenager here in Cambridge, where he was filming an episode of Doctor Who called Sharda, written by Douglas Adams, who wrote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe, and they filmed all the external scenes with him and this lady Lalla Ward, who played a character called Romana, who was actually married to Tom Baker for a while. So they were doing all these shots, and I was sort of just a gawky teenager going, "Ooh, Doctor Who," and sort of messing up all the shots in the background. "Hello, Mum." And then again in a book signing many years later in Oxford Street, when he came along to Borders bookshop to sign some books, and he changed a bit, and so had I. But anyway, the film The Great Escape. These are the actors, some of the actors who were in it, an absolutely extraordinary collection of people. I'll just read about the first 5 or 6. But Steve McQueen, who I just mentioned, Richard Attenborough was in it, the late Richard Attenborough. James Garner, who played Jim Rockford in the Rockford Files on telly much later. Charles Bronson, not the prisoner who changed his name to Charles Bronson, but your actual actor. Donald Pleasance, James Coburn, David McCallum, who was the Invisible Man for a while. Gordon Jackson, who was Cowley in a TV show called The Professionals with Martin Shaw for some while ago, and plus many more. But that's at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people whose names I've heard of who were all in this movie. And then there were a huge supporting cast as well. There was a fellow called Nigel Stock, who at one point played Dr. Watson to I think probably Basil Rathbone's Sherlock Holmes. When I was a kid on the telly, it was Nigel Stock playing Dr. Watson. A very good evening to you, Jeffrey, or good afternoon to you in your neck of the woods. We were just talking about that movie, The Great Escape, and running through the extraordinary cast list of these. All of them were box office Hollywood draws back in the day when it came out. And this movie here in the UK, it was on the telly every Christmas Day at about 3 in the afternoon. They should put it on tomorrow, really, but they won't because it's not politically correct to do so anymore. But they definitely should. It was a fabulous,
It looks like this.
fabulous movie, and you know, it was the tradition. I mean, the tradition later on became to watch Doctor Who. See, everything's linked on Christmas Day. Before, the BBC, being very politically correct, decided that Christmas Day was a religious festival, and they would shift the annual Doctor Who to a New Year's Day for politically correct reasons, which included having a Doctor Who episode with Rosa Parks in it and everything like that. Nothing wrong with Rosa Parks. She was a great pioneer. She did a wonderful thing in starting the end of apartheid, but it's not Doctor Who material. Okay, with Doctor Who, we want monsters. Okay, we want monsters with lots of fluffy ears, or Daleks with things, or Cybermen. We don't want history, guys. If we want history, we'll watch the History Channel. I mean, it's just, you know, just a little thing, A small observation there about my liking for science fiction and fantasy and stuff. I showed Irma an episode of The Orville the other day, which is another great sci-fi show, made by that guy who did American Dad. Seth MacFarlane. It's a wonderful bit of sci-fi, because a lot of the sci-fi shows at the moment are miserable bloody things where and which look as though they were created during lockdown, even though they were done about 2 or 3 years before it, but they're as miserable as hell. But that one's quite a cheery one, a sort of comedic one, and so if you can find that on whichever service it's on, Amazon or Netflix or whatever, I recommend having a little bit of a watch of that. It's like sort of homage to the Star Trek one that had Patrick Stewart in it. Mm-hmm. That one from the 1980s. So, you know, I'm really exposing myself here now, aren't I? And all my little kinks and foibles are kind of coming out now, because we've been locked up here too long, I reckon. Anyway, thank you so much for your company today. Oh, we might have another message here. Oh! I didn't know this. So Jeffrey tells me that Steve McQueen did his own stunts in The Great Escape. One of which involved, I seem to remember, he was riding along on this motorbike next to the wire to cross into Switzerland, and you know, all he had to do was kind of jump across the wire. But then I seem to recall the motorbike kind of because he's all these guys, after they got out of the prison. The second half of the film kind of documents them travelling across Europe trying to get away. And I think the ones that get away, if I remember correctly, were just kind of sailing slowly up a river, and all these other guys are doing spectacular things. So Steve McQueen is on this really snazzy sort of motorbike, riding towards the border, being pursued by all these guys going Schweinehund, Achtung, stop, and I told you that's why they don't put it on telly anymore. You know, just at the final hurdle, you know, he's that far from the border, and the motorbike skids or something, and he falls off, and then the film ends. As I remember, because it's a long time since I've seen it, I think he's back in the room throwing the baseball around and all that kind of thing. But thoroughly enjoy that. I didn't see that, but apparently Guy Martin reenacted the jump across the fence. What a remarkable thing! I had no idea. No, we'll be looking out for that on YouTube straight after we finish tonight. I think. Forget any other plans you might have had for the evening. They're off the agenda completely.
Okay.
And we're going to be looking for this clip on YouTube. That's the one. Other video streaming platforms are available, Vimeo being one of them. But you know, each to his or her own. You must have a thought for us tonight with which to finish.
Just a quick thought to finish.
Have a slow thought. Slow thoughts are the best.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Which one?
That one. That says it all.
Okay, that's from Ralph Waldo Emerson. For every minute you are angry, you lose 60 seconds of happiness.
That is profound, snappy, humorous, and everything all at once, and true.
Mm-hmm. So thank you very much for tonight.
Yeah, we are honoured that you joined us in our little abode. We do hope that we'll have the pleasure of your company again sometime soon. We'll be back tomorrow at approximately the same time, give or take an hour either way. But Facebook will notify you if you sort of ask it to, and then it will pop up a little box. Those blithering idiots from England are at it again, and then you just click watch or something, and it will happen.
Keep safe.
And
be well.
And stay home.
And thank you.
Please stay home. Please, because if you stay home, then we can go out, which would be kind of nice. Bank holiday weekend here in the UK. So for anybody watching here in the UK, which is probably most people, stay home.
Bye now.
Take care.